Hi everyone, it's Miss Phantom Fangs. I have been selling quite a few Shaggy Dog spiderlings on my Facebook page, Inverts and Herbs, which is an Australian-based page. So people have been asking how to set them up. So I'm just going to give you a guide step by step on basically how I do it. These guys I keep, because they're so small, in small containers. So what you see here is a stackable container from Woolworths. They're acrylic containers and they come in packs like this. They're basically what I use for my spiderlings because they're a perfect size. I don't drill any holes. The air exchange once a week is enough for spiders, as they're specially designed with book lungs, so they don't need it. They need high humidity. So without air holes, this allows you to obtain the high humidity. Alright, so what mix I have in there is cocoa peat. That's what I'm using as the substrate. So I get my cocoa peat blocks from Bunnings and chuck them in a bucket of water, and then a few hours later it's usually ready to use. Basically what I'll do is make sure that I squeeze the cocoa peat out and make sure that there's not too much water so it's not soggy. And I'll always have a few pieces of sphagnum moss in as well, because when you're spraying the enclosure once a week, when you're misting it, I tend to mist onto the sphagnum moss, so when they want to drink they can just go to that area to get rehydrated. Because I send my spiderlings with sphagnum moss in it, that's actually that's the amount of sphagnum moss you'll need. You don't really need much more than that anyway. So alright, I'll show you what I do. So you've received your spiderling like so. So the best thing to do is open it carefully. Alright. I can see this little guy in here. So I'll get out the sphagnum moss. Oh, and there he goes. He's in. The camera can pick up because these guys are so tiny. It's just here. So that's your first Shaggy Dog spiderling rehomed. So I'll put all the sphagnum moss there in the corner, and when I'm misting once a week I'll mist onto the sphagnum moss and try and leave the cocoa peat fairly dry, so they've got the dry area and the moist area should they need. So I'll let him settle down for a couple of days in his new enclosure before I offer him some either pinhead crickets or small crickets which have just had their heads crushed. Just crush them a little bit so they can't endanger the spider, especially if the spider's going into a molt. They can really chew on the spider and kill the spider. It's not nice when a cricket does that. And these guys I'm feeding once a week, but you can feed them every 3 or 4 days when they're this little. So again, open your container, got the little spider here. Just going to encourage him, this is a paintbrush by the way, to go in, and there we are. So we've got the spiderling just here. Going to pop the sphagnum moss in and rehomed another one. Don't forget to label your enclosures as well, because if you get more than one species and you forget to label, you'll soon forget what it was. Yeah. Alright, so that's all 3 that have been housed there. So I'll give them a couple of days to settle in, and then I'll give them a feed. Just writing SD for Shaggy Dog. I do have a label maker, but with so many sometimes much easier just to write it on, and it does wipe off with eucalyptus oil anyway. So that's about it. I don't use any heating for them. I keep them in room temps. And like I said, air exchange once a week when you mist the enclosure, and feed. Pretty easy basic stuff. Next question I know I'll get is, how much do you mist? Okay, so basically when I mist once a week, I just give a quick spray like that, and that's it. Just keep your eye on the spider as well, because when you're spraying, you know, it can be unpleasant. You don't want to directly spray the spider, and you don't want to scare the spider to climb up the walls of the enclosure and get out. Alright, so there you go. Hopefully that's answered some questions. They're quite an arid species, so you don't want the enclosure too wet, which is why I encourage you to use the sphagnum moss and to spray that. So they've still got the dry substrate along here. But yeah, have fun, and I'd love to keep updated with you guys that have bought them to see how they're growing. Alright, thanks for watching.